Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 6th episode of the DEA Tech Tuesday, where we discuss technology and innovation related to digital money. If you like this format, please like and share it with your network, and make sure to subscribe to our channel to receive our content. I'd like to start by thanking our strategic members and say that at the end of the episode, we have time for questions from the audience. So please, you can post them at the YouTube chat box. Great. So we are really pleased and honored to have two guests today. Hubert Knapp, partner at Chavanette Advisors, and Michael Watanabe, head of R&D at Chavanette Advisors. So thank you so much for being here today. We will discuss the Galactic Grid, an innovative framework designed to bring order to the complex world of CBDC technology and infrastructure. It sounds super interesting. And with no further ado, I'd like to hand over to you, Hubert and Michael, to start the presentation.
Thank you very much, Tamara, and thank you for having us here today. Let me quickly share the screen with you. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Just a brief introduction, who we are and what we do. So Chavanette Advisors is focusing on digital banking with a specific focus on CBDC and stablecoins, regulated stablecoins. We have created a platform, the Alpha Knowledge Platform, which is the backbone of our knowledge base, our research, which we will share with you today. Then we have the Galactic Grid, which is our latest innovation, which will go live next week. So you are the privileged first receivers of the Galactic Grid and what we are doing there. For a lot of the banks, we also have developed the CBDC Now handbook and encyclopedia, because there were a lot of questions around that and what central banks and commercial banks should do to move ahead. Lastly, we have a training program for all of the subjects, which we are making available to our customers and subscribers. But with all of this, let me quickly move towards the Galactic Grid and show you how this looks in the contents. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So I have created here a context chart to show how all of these components work together. On the left side, you see the standards, the CBDC standards, which we have developed over the last couple of months, which are the baseline for the Galactic Grid and for the assessment and scoring, which we are then conducting after we have received and analyzed all the information. After a selection has been made by a central bank, it then moves into the deployment, the actual implementation of CBDC technology. Because you can have the best technology in the world, if you cannot implement it and make it happen, the technology has no value. And underlying all of this on the bottom, you see the ALF data management infrastructure. This is the backbone of our knowledge management system and our analysis of the technologies. And we will show you today both the Galactic Grid and the ALP knowledge management platform. Let's have a quick look at the Galactic Grid. what it is you already mentioned, Tamara, the whole CBDC landscape is vast. It is really a universe of different technologies. Some are very focused on a specific subject, others have a larger vision. But what we see is that numerous of these technologies are not ready for prime time. There's a lot of vaporware, proof of concepts, and vendors with various degrees of maturity. That means execution capability. As a consequence of all of this, we have seen suboptimal deployments, which then led to failed projects, public resentments, failed expectation, public skepticism, and overall a bad reputation for CBDC and the ecosystem around it. And that is what we want to change with the Galactic Grid. We want the Galactic Grid to become the benchmark for CBDC technology and for CBDC deployment. So what is important for all of this is that we focus on open systems, because it is very important to understand that the CBDC infrastructure and ecosystem is a vital infrastructure for a country. And what we do not want is that our clients are getting locked in vendors with proprietary technology or vendors which are not able or willing to cooperate with others. The CBDC infrastructure, the CBDC ecosystem requires a multi-vendor approach. We also need to focus on deployment, because ultimately, if you cannot deploy your CBDC infrastructure and ecosystem, if you cannot get adoption from the general public, from the merchants, from the companies, your project will fail. So therefore, the Galactic Grid has put an increased focus on implementation. And during our analysis, during assessing the different options, we were really a little bit surprised, not to say shocked, that some of the vendors came to us and said, could you please leave us out of the grid for the time being, because we cannot come up with the right approach to the deployment. We have the technology, we are very confident about that, but we have never really looked at large-scale deployment. And that is exactly why we need to focus in. And the Galactic Grid is your compass through the chaos. It's a strategic guide to navigate the CBDC universe. What we have here is the high-level view of what we are assessing, what we are analyzing, what we are scoring and ranking. So on the left side, you see the execution capabilities, company information. Do they have white papers? Are their financials good enough? Do they have appropriate documentation? And then the project approach. How do they do projects? How do they handle testing? What is their approach to training, to demos, to the organization structure? And most of all, do they have the capabilities to build and develop a communication plan? Because in our experience in doing large-scale transformation projects, if you do not start with your communication from day one, you will not be able to execute your project successfully. And then after the technology has been deployed, you need also maintenance. How is the maintenance being done? How are the systems being updated? And how do we continue to communicate and train and prepare the public for the new technology? The vision side is focusing more on the technology itself. What is the scope? What type of use cases can they address? Has it been tested? Has it been implemented? What type of platform do they use? Is it DLT, non-DLT? What kind of cloud environment do they prefer? The APIs, the programmability, and also AI capabilities. And lastly, but very important, is the platform security, where we are even looking at quantum type security. And then lastly, we also look at innovation. How innovative is the vendor, and do they have enough budget to do continuous R&D? So in a nutshell, we assess, we score, we rank, and then the central bank or the commercial bank can then use it to compare, select, and pilot the project before a nationwide rollout. This is very quickly an illustrative view of how the grid looks. So we have 9 spatial regions. In the interest of time, I will not go through all of them, but just to show you, we can go from a black hole, which is a vendor which doesn't have the right technology, which doesn't have deployment capability, to the celestial beacon, which are the few exceptions which have outstanding technology and extraordinary deployment capabilities. If you look at the bright stars, right, these are companies which are very good in their vision. They have excellent technology, but they do not have any deployment capabilities. And if you look at the comets, these are companies which are very good in deployment, so maybe outsourcing companies, but they do not have a technology, or they have a very weak technology. So one of the approaches here could be to bring a bright star and a comet together to have an excellent combination for state-of-the-art technology, CBDC technology, and state-of-the-art deployment capabilities. So the benefits are that the central banks can do an optimal vendor selection for mission-critical infrastructure and can compare them. They can select various components and then see how they fit into the overall CBDC blueprint and roadmap for deployment. It will also help them to mitigate the risk, because we are vetting the vendors, and we help the central bank to minimize the technology and deployment risk. So it can then also be used on the board level for strategic decision making. With that, I hand over to Michael, which will now give you a quick overview of the Alpha Knowledge Platform, which is the backbone of the Galactic Grid and our knowledge base. Michael?
Thank you, Hubert. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, looks perfect.
So you first log into ALP, or the Alpha Knowledge Platform. This is where you land. And most of you are probably familiar with this map, but for those who aren't, this is the retail CBDC status per country. If you hover over, you can see the country, the status, and if you click on it, it will take you to that country. Now I'll come back to the country level in a bit. Of course, we also have the wholesale CBDC status by country and stablecoins issuer. This is where the issuers are headquartered and not the currency that's referencing. On the right-hand side, we have the latest news in digital currency, CBDC and stablecoins. At the bottom here, we have the key facts and figures for each country. So let's say, as an example, you're a technology provider and you're looking to, offer your services to a central bank. So you might be looking for, a country that's researching population. Let's say you're looking for a big country. And now you're going for predominant religion Islam because you are interested in how Sharia law and Islamic finance might apply to digital currencies. Now here you can see there's Egypt, there's Pakistan, there's Bangladesh, and there's Indonesia. And over here, the table is also filtered down to your choices. So let's just go to Indonesia for now. So on the country level, we have general information for all countries. If you want to see the transparency score, if you want to see the GDP, for example, and then the population information, maybe you want to know the median age, maybe you want to see how, the estimated unbanked population, estimated smartphone penetration for the country, and then you want to see the government. Oh, who's the president of this country? Jokowi is here. Central bank, regulators, and then commercial banks. So we have at least the top 5 commercial banks for each country or jurisdiction. Commercial banks are important, especially for CBDC, because as we know, for the 2-tier model, you have the central bank at the top, commercial banks and FSPs or PSPs in the middle, and then who will distribute the CBDC to the end user. So that's why knowing the top players in that layer is important. So let's go to the central bank for now. Bank Indonesia. So for each central bank, we have a quick synopsis, contact information, foundation and mandate, organizational structure. Maybe you want to know exactly which department within the central bank that you want to contact. You have the key executives, you have the name of the legal tender and currency, and then you have the CBDC information. So you have the status for both, as well as the CBDC project. So let's go to Project Garuda, which is Bank Indonesia's CBDC project. You have a quick synopsis. You have the timeline showing the overall plan for the digital rupiah. And then you have the publications that are related to Project Garuda. You have the white paper all the way to the latest public consultation paper report. Now let's go back here and let's go to the CBDC initiatives. You can filter by country and jurisdiction, or you can just search. Here we have all CBDC projects that are at least in the PA. And since I'm in Hong Kong now, let's just look at Project Aurum. So every CBDC project will have a quick synopsis, a high-level architecture, and then technology stack, CBDC operation, the collaborators, and the publications. So here is the publication. And let's go to stablecoins next. So here we have regulated stablecoins and fiat reference stablecoins, the major ones. Now, since this is a digital euro association, let's just search for euro, and let's go for this. I think one of the first videos I watched by the DEA was the Digital Euro conference 23, and then the guy from Stasis, he was just a good panel member, so I'm going to choose this. Quick synopsis. So for every stablecoin, we have a quick synopsis, stablecoin information. For example, where is it headquartered, the type, the blockchains, and then the relevant documents, for example, the attestation report and the white paper. Now, of course, we can just click here and go to Stasis, but let's just, I'll show you another way to do it. Let's look at the technology providers. So right now, Stasis, we can filter. They will be under stablecoins, or if you know the name, of course, you can just search. Now here, for each technology provider, we have a quick synopsis, company information, contact information, the stablecoin list, and the key executives. And Gregory was the guy I was talking about, so very good panel member. And yeah. So since we also do so for the Galactic Grid, we have included some CBDC technology providers. So let's add CBDC. And since I'm in Hong Kong, again, let's just use a company that was part of the e-Hong Kong dollar pilot phase, who would be GND. So here again, quick synopsis, company information, contact information, key executives, products and services, relevant documents. So under here, you would have GND Filia, which is their CBDC product. And now you have a quick synopsis. You have the relevant documents, such as the brochures, the white paper, and then the known clients who are known to be using it, or in the future will use it. That's it for the technology providers. Of course, let's just say you don't know the name of GND. So, but you know the name of the product. So you can just search Filia. It's going to come up here, and it's going to be the same. Now let's jump to the curated publications. So after a long time of research, we have amassed a lot of publications. You can filter by the publisher, the type, and the topics. And again, since this is a DEA podcast, let's just go to DEA and let's just go for video. And let's go, yeah, technology choices. So for each one, we have a synopsis. We have the publication date, the type, moderate. Oh, it was even you, Tamara. Okay. So yeah, we have that. We have the quick synopsis here, and then we have a video summary with timestamps. And then the source will go to YouTube, just so we don't take away any of your views. Don't worry. And that's that for the curated publications. Of course, for the PDF as well, we have synopsis, we have information on that. And now let's go for supranational organizations. Let's go for the BIS because they're one of the thought leaders and for CBDC. Again, synopsis, contact information. So if you go to the BIS website, you can't actually search for just CBDC stuff, CBDC documents. You have to either go for the working papers, the BIS bulletins, and then the other papers. Here we have all the important CBDC and stablecoin publications all in one place. The same thing I've heard from others is that for the projects, you have to go to BIS, you have to find them under the Innovation Hub. Here we have all of them all in one place. And again, you can just click Aurum, which would have been the same as just going from here, but again, you have the same thing. For each country and jurisdiction, we have a page for central banks and monetary authorities, which would be the same as or similar to Bank Indonesia page that we showed, that I showed before. Commercial banks, again, top 5 commercial banks in every country and jurisdiction. Professional profiles would be the professional, so the key executives and players for all the entities that we have here. And or you can go there and see, oh, who is currently working in a let's say Indonesian company, Indonesian financial institution, and then you'll have the list there. Country information. So I know we have the dashboard here, but let's say you can't find the country you're looking for. It happens to the best of us. You can just go to country information and search, let's say Hong Kong, and then you come to the Hong Kong page. Now the Galactic Grid will be revealed on the 8th of July, and hopefully all of you are already following Chavanette advisors on LinkedIn, because then you would see that twice a week we post a video about revealing a new spatial region, and I think they're pretty fun videos, so please follow us if you haven't already. And on Friday we have another reveal. So thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it. Hubert, did I miss anything?
No, you covered it perfectly. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you so much. Really like it, both presentations, especially that the DEA content is inside of the Alpha Knowledge platform. So yeah, really super interesting. I'd like to start with the problem statement. So we know that the process of developing an optimal CBDC infrastructure is a challenge one, especially because central banks are confronted with a multitude of design approaches that must attend to the needs of different macroeconomic situations, the change of consumer needs, the ever-evolving technology. So we mentioned at the beginning the scales in the ecosystem. So perhaps you can elaborate a little bit about how the Galactic Grid can help with these problems, especially with the public skepticism and the suboptimal developments that you mentioned, Hubert.
Yeah. Thank you, Tamara. Yeah, the approach has to be that you first develop a very clear vision of what you want to do, what your strategic intent is. So you develop a CBDC blueprint and a roadmap for the implementation. So if you look at the chart I had at the beginning, which talks about the standard, the Galactic Grid, and then the deployment. So the standards, they help you to define your vision, define your blueprint, and then you take those information to the Galactic Grid and see which of the technologies will meet your requirements. And by doing that, you will also see who the vendor is, how sound they are financially. Are they able to do large-scale implementations, or do you need to supplement them with somebody who has these capabilities? And then you have to move to the deployment methodology, which we call CBDC now, which looks at the strategy, the business processes, the organization design, and then the enabling technology. And what is very important for all of this is that you know exactly what you want to focus on. Is it the wholesale CBDC? Is it the retail CBDC? It depends also on the size of the country, right? A smaller country could, for example, use distributed ledger technology. If it is a large country, then most probably that is not advisable, because all our research shows that DLT and blockchain does not work for retail CBDC in a large country. So that is the approach which we normally recommend. And of course, it's important to look for open systems, to look for the ability of the vendor to cooperate, which is other, because it's, like I said at the beginning, a vital infrastructure for a country. It is a systemic infrastructure, which is very important.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, exactly. We know that each jurisdiction has its own problems to solve. That's why we see in the market so many different solutions.
I might add this last point. What is really absolutely critical for the deployment is the communication. So that communication plan has to be part of your approach to CBDC deployment. If you do not have the communication plan, the communication strategy in place, I can guarantee you that your project will most likely not succeed.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, communication, it's really key. And we also believe that it needs to bring some strong value proposition and benefits for citizens. There is no sense in issue something that it's quite similar. And of course that the communication of all this work, it's extremely important.
Yes, and the blueprint is important because there are so many moving parts, right?
Yeah.
You have the transaction processing, you have security issues, you have new products, you have the payment rails, you need to interact with different countries. Because the interesting thing is there is also a retail CBDC cross-border approach, right? Where you would not use the wholesale CBDC infrastructure. This would be purely for retail transactions. So that means transactions which are high in volume and low in value.
Yeah. I'm really curious the way that you organize all the stakeholders in the grid. So we have these two dimensions. So you mentioned the vision and then the execution capability. And how do you balance the importance of vision and execution capability? Because we know that it's really hard and maybe almost impossible to be at the top corner in the grid. So how do you see this, the importance of this balance?
Yeah. In our view, the most important is the implementation capability, and that means the communication capability as well. Because you can have less superior technology if you know how to implement it, if you know how to communicate it, you can make it work and can make the project successful. On the other hand, you can have the best technology in the world. If you do not know how to implement it, how to integrate it, how to make it secure, and most of all, how to get the adoption of the general population, it will not work. Therefore, the ability to deploy, the ability to communicate, bring everybody on board, to train, get people ready is absolutely critical for a CBDC implementation. And everything what you want to do, your strategic intent, should already be defined in the blueprint. And what is also important is to have a clear roadmap, because you have to put a stake in the ground, right? If you don't measure it, it will not get done. So you need deadlines, you need milestones, which everybody has to achieve. And then you can drive it forward successfully. I would recommend to start with a pilot, which is part of our methodology, of our approach. So we are not a believer in sandboxes. Sandboxes are good, like what it says, sandbox for playing, for getting your feet wet. It's also good for training. It is good for awareness building. It is good for talking to the senior management and show them how a solution could work. But it tells you absolutely nothing about in real life implementation. For that, you need a pilot. So we are not saying that you should not use sandbox. It has a place. But if your intent is to deploy and make your CBDC infrastructure a success, you need to do a pilot. And then within that pilot, you might have training where you use a sandbox. You might need to communicate, let's say, to the press or other third parties. There you could use a sandbox demo to show the system. But your real feedback comes from an actual pilot using actual money, real integration into core systems, and real vendors and users which are using the system for the duration of the pilot. And then you take all that feedback, adjust and align your solution, and then you are ready for large-scale deployment. Thailand is a good example. They started with DLT for their retail CBDC, and then because they also use real money and real integration into the system and real people and merchants, they quickly found out that DLT is not the right technology for high volume transaction processing and requirements. And then they shifted towards a more traditional technology and successfully could complete the pilot. The other success story for pilot, our good friends in China, the digital yuan, that is probably in another country it would be probably already the deployment, but in China, 100 million user, that is still considered a pilot.
Yeah.
But what China does is absolutely the right approach, right? And they have received so much knowledge in how to do that during their pilot, which I think many other countries cannot match at this stage, right? And there, I want to give you also feedback what I received from the central bank governor of Bank Indonesia, Pak Peri, is that you need to have a big vision, a great vision, then you implement small, but you do it fast. And that is exactly the right approach. And to our central bank friends, if you really want to know what is happening, you need to do a pilot, right? Otherwise, your research will just give you a lot of nice documents which you can put on the shelf, but it will not give you any feedback for the real life operation. Mm-hmm. So get your feedback. You can come to Chavanette. We can help you with that. And of course, the DEA as well, right? We are partners together. And then we make it happen. We make one large-scale successful deployment, which will tick all the different success points of an deployment, and then you will see it will open a floodgate, and everybody will want to do the same.
Absolutely. I'd like
But
to.
maybe I can add
Yeah, sure.
a last thing here. What is also important is that the requirements for each country are different, right? You cannot have an fits-all solution or fits-all approach.
Yeah.
It depends on the technical infrastructure, the electricity ability, internet ability. It depends on the size of the country, their the access of people to digital technology. You know, is it 90%, 95%, or is it only 50% or 40%? And all this information we would be able to get from ALP. But that is very important. There is no one size fits all.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. So you mentioned in the presentation that the Alpha Knowledge platform is the backbone of the Galactic Grid. So maybe you, Michael, can elaborate a little bit on how the platform complement the Galactic Grid in providing this comprehensive insight into the CBDC ecosystem. So I'm really impressed because you have all the data inside of this platform. So yeah, maybe you can share a little bit.
You have to unmute yourself, Michael. Yeah.
Yeah. I missed the first part of the question, but
yeah,
it was a.
Sorry, but yeah, it's not.
Your line is not very good.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe I can answer the question.
Try to talk
because
about,
I think my line is
yeah.
better. Michael is in a developing country, Hong Kong. Oh, now he will be banned from Hong Kong. Okay, we lost him. Anyway, the Galactic Grid has curated and analyzed all the information which are available. We also have sent out questionnaires to the vendor. It's the entire questionnaire is about 400 pages, very detailed. It also goes into technical architectures, application architecture, network architecture, security architecture, all of those kind of things. Of course, we are not sending them the 400 pages in one go. We have to do that gradually. And then we also have interviews and Zoom calls with the key stakeholders in the company. And after we have curated a report about the company and have scored them and rated them, we are sending them the curated report for comments before we publish it in the Alpha Knowledge platform for the wider public. But this is where all the base information is being curated and then made available for all the other tools we have, like the Galactic Grid for the assessment, the scoring, and the rating. And then you can also take it and then compare different vendors with each other.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And yeah, since you have all the data and of course you are experts in the topic, what do you think about the future trends that you see in the CBDC technology landscape? Some AI technology integrated?
Yeah, AI technology will be integrated into CBDC and in banking technology in general. And we have one assessment point in our Galactic Grid, which focuses on AI and how it is being used for deployment, for risk management, for product development, for monitoring and managing smart contracts and all of that. So that is definitely something we have an eye on, because a lot of the more mundane tasks, they will be given to AI in the future, and the more involved, customer focused, or for a bank, regulator focused things, they will be done more on a personal basis. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, there is a lot of discussion around CBDC, which is more focused on one important aspect, which is offline processing, which is very critical. And the next one is cash replacement, right? And I think all of this is only scratching the surface of what can be done with CBDC. And ultimately, I would see an environment where our fiat currency is purely CBDC, and we don't have this quote-unquote dual system, CBDCs and non-CBDCs, because if you really look at it, it makes no sense. And that requires a total rethinking of the financial system in a country and around the globe. And to make all of this happen, we need to clean up some of the damage which has been done in the past in failed projects, because the technology and the clients were not prepared deep enough, and then do a lot of communication to get in general acceptance of the public, where we need to address their concerns regarding privacy, which is one of the hot subjects. Mm-hmm. So what CBDC has to be in the future, it has to be human-centric, it has to be fair, ethical, it has to be quantum safe, it has to enable cash privacy, and there should be no trade-offs. I think that sums it up, what is the future for CBDC infrastructure and ecosystem. And there are some other things which I see happening, but I think we will address that in a different podcast with you, because it could be very controversial. And I want to discuss that with you first. But we are really looking at how the CBDC infrastructure can be used to its fullest. And because it is ultimately political, there need to be political decisions which need to be made. And in everything what you do, there are people who approach it and embrace it, and there are other people, no matter what you do, you will never be able to get them on board. So the important thing is the old 80-20 rule. if we can show the benefits to 85% of the public, of the population, then the other 15% ultimately will also see the benefits and then slowly come on board. But communication, training, awareness building is absolutely critical for a successful CBDC rollout.
Great. Yeah, so you mentioned the difference between the pilot and the sandbox. Any other misconceptions about CBDC technology that you encounter in all this research and the data you have in the platform that you think that the Galactic Grid can help to clarify them?
Yeah, the Galactic Grid, in the iteration which we will publish next week on the 8th, will look at a more encompassing ecosystem. So vendors which have more than island solutions. But after that, we will also look at vendors which are very strong in a specific area, let's say offline processing, using hardware devices, for example. And then we will have a specific grid targeting that niche.
Okay.
Right? And then, of course, we need to bring all of that together again in a nationwide ecosystem. And that is where the blueprint is so important, because you need to have an overall architecture for your CBDC deployment and show all the different components and how they work together. Otherwise, especially in a multi-vendor environment, if you pick and choose specific components of very strong vendors in that area, you have to ensure that they can all work together from a human point of view, as well as from an API point of view, and that the architectures can coexist with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing we have not touched, but just to mention it, for any deployment on that scale, and also the transition from an non-CBDC environment to partial CBDC environment to a full CBDC environment requires an approach to what I call coexistence. So initially, till you can do a full switch, you need various technologies and stakeholders to coexist side by side. So there is no big bang approach to that. In fact, the big bang approach is very, very risky, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this it's kind of interoperability between the current system and then the system that you want to
yes.
build. Yeah.
Yeah, and you also don't want to compromise the new system.
Yeah.
That is why I said you cannot make compromises. But if you try to integrate into existing technology, that old legacy technology always tracks you down.
Yeah.
Right? And the people with the legacy mindset, they again will track you down. So what we need is we need to open our mind, and we need to start with a clean slate. And for that to be very successful, you need coexistence. I can give you an example. We did a project in Vietnam with one of the commercial banks there, and it was the transformation of the bank for the digital age to become a digital bank. And that project failed. Why did it fail? Because the IT department had their own ideas and they didn't want to give up power. So ultimately, it's about, I know this, it gives me power, nobody can control me. So I will sabotage anything which happens, right? So you have that mindset, you have this kind of resistance. So I went to the chairman of the bank and said, look, this doesn't work. We need to do a clean slate. And then he said, yeah, I agree. Why don't you build a digital bank from scratch? So parallel to the legacy bank, we built a new bank with their own technology, their own products, their own delivery systems, their own management. And that was highly successful. Right? Now it's one of the premier digital banks in Vietnam. And then after all of that was done, we did the integration on the consolidated ledger so that the bank can create a consolidated balance sheet for both entities. And then slowly, now the traditional clients, they are moving over to the digital bank, right? So after a while, I think the analog bank, if you want, will just fade away. And that is, I think, a very successful and recommendable approach.
Yeah, super interesting. So the time runs. We are almost out of the time. So I'd like to thank you, Hubert and Michael, for the presentation. I really enjoyed our discussion, and I will ask you to give your closing remarks.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having us here, for giving us the opportunity to introduce Chavanette to a wider public, to introduce the Galactic Grid and the ALP knowledge platform, and in general to share with the wider community about CBDC, about the approach to CBDC, and how to make it successful. Because we do not believe in a closed shop environment. We believe in cooperation and sharing information with others, and we want to make CBDC a success for each country and for the globe at large. Michael, you want to say a couple of words? I think he has technical problems.
No, I think Hubert already covered it perfectly. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and please follow us on LinkedIn, and hope to see you all joining, subscribing to ALP and following us on LinkedIn, just learning more about what we do, and thank you again.
Yeah, and if you have any question, please feel free to contact any of us. You can also go via Tamara. She knows how to reach us, and we will be more than willing and happy to share information with you and share our experience with you.
Great. I also link the presentation at the description box. So yeah, our audience can access them. So thank you so much. Also, thanks to the audience. If you're enjoying this content, please like this video and share it. And see you at the next episode of the DEA Tech Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. We